Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. WrestleMania 36, night number 2, has finally come to an end. It kicked off the exact same way they started night 1. We seen that ridiculous introduction by Stephanie McMahon. We seen the always unnecessary introduction by the Gronk, which nobody really gives a shit about. And then we got into WrestleMania night number 2, which was nowhere near as entertaining as WrestleMania night 1. And we are going to talk about all of that and so much more right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare, and you are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's WrestleMania 36 night number 2 review and reaction show. Let's do it. It's funny to me that we went through 2 nights of action for WrestleMania for the first time ever, and out of the whole entire event, there was one match that sticks out in particular, and it involves a 50-year-old Undertaker in a match that wasn't really a wrestling match, if we're being honest. It was one of the best produced segments that WWE has ever done, and it gave me high hopes. It gave me high hopes for WrestleMania night number 2. But unfortunately, those hopes would be dashed almost immediately because this card, for some reason, though it featured some of the more high-profile matches, though it featured some of the more stuff we were actually more excited to see, it just didn't deliver on the same level as they did last night. And sure, we were hard on night 1, and there were a lot of bad matches last night, but we had a lot of good matches last night, too. The same cannot be said for this evening. And if you even dare come at me and compare the Firefly Dumbhouse to the Boneyard match that we seen last night, then you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. It's just some of the most ridiculous, most nonsensical shit I have ever seen. The Firefly Funhouse match was the biggest disappointment to me of all time. Of all time. When you gave me what you gave me last night, where you showed me how you understood what you needed to do, and you delivered on a major level with the Boneyard match, you come out with this Firefly Funhouse match, which wasn't even a match at all, in a whole different way. It was a promo war. It was Bray Wyatt and John Cena in a war of words. And then because it's Bray Wyatt and the Firefly Funhouse has to be mystical and magical, and we're taking travels through time. We're seeing John Cena in his little skivvy shorts from the Ruthless Aggression debut. We're seeing him as the Doctor of Thugonomics. We're seeing him for some fucking reason dressed up as a member of the New World Order. Can somebody tell me what that was about? What did any of the things that went on in WCW had to do with what happened between Bray Wyatt and John Cena? There was no connection there. It was just to do it, and I see everybody marking out on social media, oh, that's Cena in the NWO, that was really cool. Why was it cool? Why? Because it's something you never seen before? In context of what? It doesn't mean anything. The NWO, why? Because they were going in the Hall of Fame? Big friggin' whoop. That match was stupid. It was way less of a match than AJ and The Undertaker had the night before, and we really could have done without it. You took the Universal Championship from Bray Wyatt to give him this ridiculous matchup with John Cena, and they failed. They failed. They tried to make it interesting, but I felt like I was watching Southpaw Wrestling. That stupid, ridiculous mockery of a wrestling show that the WWE put on, and that's meant to be laughed at. This is WrestleMania. I'm not supposed to be sitting here laughing. Did they even really fight? Who gives a shit? Johnny Lodge meat. The fuck out of here. Who cares? That was an embarrassment. Embarrassmania. Firefly Funhouse match. Give me a break. that's probably the biggest disappointment of the night. Most of everything else that happened was inconsequential. We had some decent wrestling, for the most part, I guess. But the nearly hour-long last man standing match between Edge and Randy Orton was just a little bit much. Now, they didn't do anything that was too over the top. It was a pretty standard last man standing match, and it was very entertaining. It was very dramatic. It was very high stakes, and it was very, very, very long. They literally could have cut that match directly in half, and it would have been just fine. It would have been just fine. The finish was fine. Everything about the match was fine except for the length of the match. Some of the stuff that they did and cutting from this scene to that scene and going all over the arena, through the performance center and its offices and here and there. We've seen all that already, by the way. We seen it just a couple of weeks ago with Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, and it was done way better then than it was actually done here and now. But I'm not saying that it was a bad match. It was just way too long, and I found myself disinterested at times. And I love Edge. I'm a big rated R superstar guy. I'm a huge Randy Orton guy. And this was the one match on this whole entire card that I was truly looking forward to, and I feel like they tried to overachieve. And it was just, it kind of fell flat. Because it's just too long to get to the conclusion. Another thing that was very good but had a disappointment to it was the Women's Championship match for NXT. Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley. They look like a mirror image of one another, and it was a really great match. The match really lived up to what a lot of people expected it to be. Charlotte Flair looked probably the best I've ever seen her. She was in there with a girl that can really take a punch and that can really deliver on the other side of the ring, can throw Charlotte around just as easily as Charlotte can throw her around, and it turned into a very good match. This one maybe was a little bit long too, for my taste, but the match itself was very good. These girls did a fantastic job, and the problem here is that the WWE made the Vince McMahon decision to give that title to Charlotte Flair. You give it to her or you're fired. But why? Is Charlotte Flair really going to make a difference moving over to NXT? No. It's going to make people that are watching NXT now furious that this person that nobody can stand from the main roster is coming and taking all the glory. Rhea Ripley barely has even had this championship belt. What, did she defend it once? And now she's already lost it, and she's lost it to Charlotte. And then you're going to have all these Charlotte loyalists. Oh, but she's a 10-time champ. How could Rhea Ripley beat someone with her experience and her expertise and blah, blah, blah? Because that's how you make new stars. You have a girl like Rhea Ripley, who nobody barely knows, and you have her make her mark on the map by beating Charlotte Flair at a WrestleMania, defending her championship. Then you want to send Charlotte down there to try to get revenge, or because she's pissed at Rhea, and to continue the feud and have Charlotte on NXT to try to give it a bump in the ratings. Go ahead. But you shouldn't have tainted Rhea Ripley. She's only now another in a long line of women who have come up from NXT, who have been immediately squashed by somebody on the main roster. And that somebody, more often than not, is usually Charlotte Flair. I don't agree with her winning this title at all. What does it do? Oh, well, we'll get to see Charlotte versus Io Shirai. You mean we'll get to see Charlotte beat Io Shirai? We'll see Charlotte versus Bianca Belair. You mean Charlotte's going to beat Bianca Belair? You think Vince McMahon's going to send his golden girl down there and allow her to lose? She's going to run roughshod over a division she should have absolutely nothing with. We barely want her to have anything to do with the main roster's women division. We're tired of the Queen. I love me some Charlotte Flair. She put on a really good match tonight. She does get cringeworthy to me, and I can't stand her promos. But maybe now is the time to take a break. Go away. Go heal up. Go marry Andrade. Go learn how to make tacos or some shit and make your man happy. Take a vacation. This way we miss you. And then come back and maybe I won't be so hard on you. But Charlotte Flair defeats Rhea Ripley to win the championship. And that's one of the worst decisions they made on this evening. Maybe even just as bad of a decision as whoever it is that wrote that Firefly Dumbhouse segment. Absolutely ridiculous. Tonight on night 2, we had the unnecessary matchup of the evening that needed to exist. Last night, it was King Dickhead Baron Corbin versus Elias. Tonight, it's Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley. And it's not like I don't like to see Aleister Black in the ring, but I don't like to see Bobby Lashley in the ring. He has barely even been around as it is. All of a sudden, Lana's back with him. Why this is still a thing, I don't know. Unless it actually did happen in reality, I don't know anymore. Because I figured by now she would either be back with Rusev or this whole thing would have been dissolved. It seemed like it was, but I guess that's wishful thinking. Aleister Black defeats Bobby Lashley in a match that goes almost 10 minutes, and it shouldn't have even gone that long. Aleister Black should have made quick work of Bobby Lashley, trimmed some of the time down for this show, because there was no need for this match to exist at all. There was nothing going on between these two. This wasn't built up over the course of a few months. This was just randomly added because it's WrestleMania season, I guess. And we needed to have a match for Aleister Black. And the best you can come up with is Bobby Lashley? This was definitely unnecessary, and nobody wanted to see it, especially not this guy. And I know you guys didn't care too much either. At the very least, Aleister Black won. Great. Now maybe he'll go back to Monday Night Raw and start wrestling jobbers again. So what's to get excited about? The next matchup on this night was Otis versus Dolph Ziggler with Sonya Deville after the big reveal on SmackDown that we know Sonya is a dirty two-faced liar and that she was helping Ziggler Pants try to get in the pants of Mandy Rose and foiled the plans of the big man Otis. And I love Otis. I think he's great. He looks like Brock Lesnar's fat little brother, and I think he's fantastic. And everybody in the world tuning into this match knew how this match was going to end up. It was a no-brainer. Otis was going to win this matchup. He was going to get the girl. Mandy Rose came down to assist Otis in the win. It was just fine. There was nothing wrong with this, except for the fact that there were no crowds to pop when Otis locked lips with Mandy Rose, carrying her away like he just won a trophy. It was friggin' beautiful. It was fantastic to see the big man finally get a win. But it would have been a whole lot better with a full-on audience that would have soaked that moment up and would have really gave some sick reaction. It would have been great. That's what it was all set up for. And without the fans to invest in it, behind it, we're just watching Days of Our Fucking Lives over here. But it's fine. We all knew it was going to happen. There was a little one-on-one between Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. I'm figuring that's going to be a thing. Maybe Mandy Rose becomes the manager of Heavy Machinery. I could deal with that. I don't know. We'll see moving forward. After this, we had Edge defeating Randy Orton in the last man standing match that went on way, way too long. There were a lot of really good spots in this. There was one spot that really made me cringe. And anybody that watched the Benoit documentary from Dark Side of the Ring, you probably know what I'm talking about. There was one moment in this matchup where Edge kind of where Edge was strung up by Randy Orton in like a weightlifting machine, and it immediately made me think back to all of the information that we were listening to just last week on Dark Side of the Ring, and it was not the kind of thing you want to have me thinking back to. Maybe not the best spot to put in this matchup, but you know that not everybody thinks as deeply as I do. Some of you guys probably didn't even realize the connection that could be made there, but maybe that was something they could have walked away from. This just went on way too long, and I know Edge is feeling great. I know he's doing good. I watched the Edge 24 special on the WWE Network, which is must-see. If you haven't seen it and you have the network, you could even stop watching me right now. Go watch that documentary and then come back to me and finish this WrestleMania review, because it is absolutely amazing. Must-see television. And he came back, and yeah, he's feeling good, but there's a lot of heavy risks taken in this matchup, and I feel like they were trying to give us a show, and I appreciate it. I really appreciate what they put their bodies through. I just really think that they are selling themselves too short, and they didn't have to do all that much. They really, really didn't. Do they not know that they're Edge and Randy Orton, and they could have told just as much of the story as they told in half the amount of time, and it would have been just as satisfactory to all of us watching, because all any of us really wanted to see was Edge get his revenge in this scenario, which was exactly what ended up happening anyway. It happened in a very dramatic fashion in the backstage area on top of a semi-tractor trailer, and there was a concerto delivered to Randy Orton that just laid him out for the 10 count. By the time this was all said and done, this was an epic match, really, but it just wasn't all that. I don't know, just the longer it went, the less I felt attached to it. And it was just almost like, all right, come on, let's get this over with. And I don't know why particularly that I felt that way, but I did. I felt that way, and it just kind of brought the match down a little bit. A couple of cool things, though, was the audio during this match. Edge and Randy Orton are not ones to be shy about voicing their opinions even mid-match, and Edge dropped a couple of F-bombs during this encounter. Randy Orton giving the referee direction. At one point, Edge is laying on the floor, the referee's just standing there, and Randy's like, oh, what, that doesn't get a count? And then later on, he decides to tell the referee, don't worry, I'll tell you when to count. Don't start counting now because I'm not done. I'm going to pick up Edge right here. There's just a lot of interesting things being said during that match. And while we're talking about the audio, I don't know, man. Like, I feel like if somebody was standing outside my office right here and were listening to what I was watching while I was watching WrestleMania, they would think I was watching a hardcore porn. Or that's what it sounds like. It's just a lot of grunting and moaning and heavy breathing and occasional counting. And I know the counting doesn't really go with porn, but, you know, maybe that's your thing. Maybe you're a numbers guy and you like to watch people railing each other and go, 1, 2, 3, hoo, ha, he, hoo, ha, 1, 2, 3, hoo, ha, he, You get the picture. And how many times that referee started the 10 count in those 45 minutes that this match went on. It was just like, I feel like I'm going to be hearing a referee counting numbers while I'm trying to close my eyes and go to sleep tonight. It was just a little bit too much. Not too much in the same sense that I said, you know, Omega and Ambrose was too much, but this was just a little long. It was fine. It was fine. I'm trying not to shit on it too much. But in the end, we all kind of got what we wanted, which was Edge back in the WWE, which is great. Putting on a match like this means he's probably not going nowhere. It'll probably be a limited schedule, and it's great. It's what we all wanted. You know what we didn't want? We didn't want to have to see the Gronk win the hey, look at me, I'm a clown, 24/7, avocado-colored, golden-plated, championship garbage trash bag belt. That was a WrestleMania moment none of us needed. None of us needed to see any of that. I don't care. Rob Gronkowski now has the belt that belongs to the biggest clowns in the WWE. The WWE 24/7 Championship should have had absolutely zero place at WrestleMania. It only exists for Rob Gronkowski. And hey, look, now we finally got the moment Triple H was finally talking about. Whoa, you'll be surprised what Rob Gronkowski is going to bring to the table. Oh, look, he's going to jump off the top of a balcony, which takes away from every single actual professional athlete that knows how to safely propel themselves from a balcony. It's just, with the dives and the debate in wrestling about who's doing dives and flips and this and that, to see a guy like Gronk do something like that is just, is it special? If Gronkowski can do it, is it special when a guy like Morrison does it, or when a guy like Kofi Kingston drops a boom drop on top of Edge from a high place like this? It's fucking Rob Gronkowski. And they didn't even care enough to show us how many of these clowns decided that they were going to challenge for the 24/7 championship with a global crisis going on where none of us should be within 6 feet of each other. But we're going to have 15 guys worrying about winning a green-colored belt that means absolutely nothing. That's worth about 2 nickels rubbed together. Unfreaking believable. Street Profits retain their championships in the tag team division of Raw as they went up against Austin Theory and Angel Garza. There was nothing special about this at all. This was just a tag team match. This was a Raw match. And I'm sure we'll probably see a rematch tomorrow night on Raw. That's all this was. The most special thing about this was A, Zelina Vega's outfit, and B, the debut of Bianca Belair. And I'm actually not sure how I feel about this. I'm not sure. Bianca Belair hasn't even had a chance to reign supreme as the NXT Women's Champion. If she's being brought up to the main roster to be with her husband, Montez Ford, and be the female valet or manager or female part of the Street Profits, without truly getting what she deserved in NXT, you know what's going to happen. You've seen what happened to Shayna freaking Baszler. Look what they did to Baszler. You think Bianca Belair is going to get the royal treatment? You think she's not going to get squashed? You think she's safe from that? I certainly don't. So I'm not really looking forward to her being on Raw just yet, when she has a lot of unfinished business on a much better show where she would be booked much better. Street Profits retain their championships, and that's the bottom line, I guess. Bianca Belair came out. Great. I'm on my own against the wall. Hope she goes back to NXT. That's all I have to say. This was maybe a one-time thing. That's the best I can come up with. 5-way elimination matchup. Bayley retains her championship. Sasha Banks, Lacey Evans, Tamina, and Naomi all in this matchup. They had one job in this match. And I know everybody's going to say, oh, well, they planted the seeds. They planted the seeds for Sasha and Bayley. Let's all get excited. They planted some seeds. What seeds? What seeds? They don't need no seeds for this. This is something that has been going on for 6 years. On again, off again, friendships. You need to plant freaking seeds? There's only one seed, and it's the SmackDown Women's Championship. And they had one job in this match, and it was to eliminate the field down, leaving it to the 2 Boston Connection best friends so that the implosion can begin. Maybe Bayley still retains. Sasha reluctantly gives her the hug. You have her raise the hand and everything. You could have done it the same way. And at the same time, if you would have had them eliminate these field of women very quickly, you could have gave us a 10-minute preview of what's to come when Sasha and Bayley really go at it for the championship in a one-on-one scenario at SmackDown. But no. Instead, we get a 20-minute match where Tamina's got to get a shot in. And what was up with Tamina's face? Anybody else seem to think that Tamina was wearing a mask of her own face on her face? Something was up there. But what the hell were they thinking when they had Sasha Banks eliminated before the end? Leaving Bayley with bam, bam, I don't belong here. It's WrestleMania. I got another title shot. Bam, 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 bam. Really? Lacey Evans knocks out Sasha Banks with her bullshit right. And then Bayley capitalizes on the situation, ends up walking out the champion. There was a little interaction between Sasha and Bayley because, we're planting the seeds. The freak out of here. They didn't need to do anything more than to end this with a short exchange between Sasha and Bayley for the championship. Have Bayley even cheat to win. She cheats her best friend to win the championship, and now Sasha's like, how dare you? What the hell, girl? I thought we were in this together. We're trying to see, may the best woman win, and you got to cheat to win instead? That would have been better than having Sasha Banks pinned by Lacey Evans at WrestleMania. in an elimination match for a championship. That's planting seeds to what? The shit tree? I don't want a shit tree growing in my backyard. Awful. The Firefly Dumbhouse match. Did Bray Wyatt even win? Like, was there a winner? Like, there was no referee. There was no... I mean, there was nothing here. There was nothing here but a bunch of really weird shit. I feel like the guy that decided to write this segment, or the whole entire team that was put together to produce this segment, got into the punch bowl and they didn't know that the punch bowl was laced with LSD. I'm sure Bray Wyatt had some input on it, but man, they couldn't have got this more wrong. They got mostly everything wrong on this part of WrestleMania. It was awful. And if you liked it, then, good for you. You have a higher tolerance for garbage in your life than I do. But this was nothing. This was a promo war between Bray Wyatt and John Cena, where they decided to cut in and out of weird scenes. We seen the big SmackDown fist. I'm supposed to get excited? I'm supposed to get excited? What do you want me to start whacking? Oh, it's the set. It's the fist from the set 20 years ago. Whoa! That's a WrestleMania moment. Guess what? It wasn't even the set. It was just the fist just laying there on the floor. I would have been more impressed if I would have actually seen the actual shattered glass SmackDown set with the fist hanging in the air. But no, instead, there's just a big gray fist. And everybody's, oh, the SmackDown fist. You know where that fist is going, right? Right up your rear end. By the time you're ending WrestleMania this evening, that's what you felt like. Like you had a big silver fist shoved right in your ass with the Firefly Dumbhouse match. Ridiculous. They went back to Saturday night's main event. We seen John Cena in a tag team with Bray Wyatt promoting some sort of an imaginary steel cage matchup, and he's Johnny Large Meat. Pumping iron. And then his arms stop working. He busted a muscle. And he's trying to throw punches. What are we watching? What is the point of any of this? Bringing it back to WCW. Bray Wyatt standing in the middle of the ring. He's got the Wolfpack red and black NWO shirt on. John Cena comes out. He's Hulk Hogan with the NWO belt. He's playing the thing on the thing, and everybody's doing the thing, and I don't understand anything. The one thing that I did find amusing was when John Cena came out in his little prototype shorts and they were replaying the Ruthless Aggression segment of John Cena's life. And John Cena was going, ruthless aggression. And then he would go to smack Bray Wyatt like he smacked Kurt Angle. And he would miss every time. I did chuckle a little bit at some of that. But outside of that, there was really nothing. Oh, there was one other thing that I thought was great. Bray Wyatt at one point looked at John Cena and started to sing Nikki Bella's theme song. And I was like, wow, finally something interesting. And I thought at that point the match was going to begin. But a match never did begin. And The Fiend was barely even part of any of it. We were supposed to get John Cena versus The Fiend, or were we supposed to get John Cena versus Bray Wyatt in the Firefly Funhouse? I don't know. And while The Fiend was there to end the match, the rest of, if you want to even call it that, I mean, at least AJ and The Undertaker beat the shit out of each other. Sure, there was special effects. There was Undertaker rising from the grave, coming out of nowhere, and all this little special stuff that doesn't happen in reality. But at the core of that encounter, they beat the shit out of each other. At the core of this encounter is nothing. Puppets, vignettes, flashbacks, and then John Cena disappears after Bray Wyatt counts to 3 for himself. Disappears as The Fiend stands in the ring. What? That was the best you got for that. I could have lived without it. And then the main event of WrestleMania, the most predictable matchup of all time, Drew McIntyre defeats Brock Lesnar, finally becoming the champion, finally fulfilling his 19-year dream. And there was nobody there to enjoy it with him. And you could see it in the guy's face. If you feel bad for anybody about WrestleMania, don't feel bad for me. Don't even feel bad for you, for yourself, for having to sit through this shit show. Feel bad for Drew Mack. Because this guy is all he's ever wanted. Like, I can relate to that. I understand. I've always wanted to be in the ring, and I've had the chance. I've been training with the House of Glory, and, and then that gets taken away from you, and it sucks. But now imagine you actually made it, and you worked your ass off, and you find yourself in the main event of WrestleMania, and you're going to win the title, and there's no fans there. It's gotta suck. You seen it in his face. I seen him shaking his head like, oh my God, I can't believe what I have to look at here. And I felt bad for him. I also feel bad for us, not just because we weren't able to give Drew McIntyre the reception that he truly deserves, but because in this situation with this friggin' championship matchup, it was almost the exact same as last night's Universal Championship. And I understand Brock Lesnar is a one-match kind of machine. His matches are all essentially the same. He's going to either suplex the shit out of you and win clean, or you're going to give some offense, and then he's going to give some offense, and then subsequently be upset by the challenger. And that was the story they played tonight. But these matches for the championships, and even in the grudge matches, it doesn't even have to be for championships. When you have two megastars in the ring, and it just becomes finisher mania, it's so lazy. It's so unappealing, and that's not how Drew McIntyre would have. As soon as he came out and hit the Claymore kick on Brock Lesnar within the first 3 seconds of the match, you already knew what you were in store for. And having individuals kicking out of finishing moves after multiple attempts at those finishing moves just makes everything feel worthless. Do you give a shit about... Does an F5 even matter to anybody anymore? Look at all the people that have kicked out of an F5. Roman Reigns has kicked out of the F5. I believe Seth Rollins kicked out of the F5. Everybody that goes up against Brock Lesnar eventually kicks out of the F5 at least once. And now the same can be said for Drew McIntyre. Nobody ever clicks out of the Claymore, but Brock Lesnar kicked out of the Claymore, even though he's going to end up going on to lose this matchup. So you devalue the guy's finishing move just as much as the entire WrestleMania situation was devalued by not being able to have fans in attendance. And it's a goddamn shame. It's a real shame. It was not nearly as much to like on this installment of WrestleMania as there was for last night. And I will still reiterate some of the points I made last night, which were, I hope the 2-night format continues. While it did make it much easier to ingest, it has a lot more pros than cons. I don't want them to move away from this. I was skeptical about it at first, but it was good for Wrestle Kingdom, and I think it works for WrestleMania. It separates it apart from all the other pay-per-views from the rest of the year, and I think it'll be just fine. It also gives me more content to give to you guys to be able to give you a full weekend's worth of WrestleMania reviews. But there is one thing I'm going to go back on. Last night I said, I hope the WWE continues on with these cinematic movie style like promos. And not promos, these cinematic movie style segments and matches where they could feature characters like a Bray Wyatt and an Undertaker in a unique and different fashion. But I take that back. After the Firefly Dumbhouse tonight, I take that back. I hope they only use it exclusively for Undertaker matches going forward. Because that's the only time I think it's ever going to feel at least like it matters. Because the Firefly Funhouse match at WrestleMania was the worst part of WrestleMania, as opposed to something that was just like it with two other gentlemen in a different scenario that was the best of WrestleMania. And isn't it crazy that after all these years, the best part of WrestleMania 36 was The Undertaker? Ain't that something? That's something. That's special for him. That's special to me, being a guy that followed him from day one. And I'm glad that happened. But I really wish, more than anything, that Vince would have had the frame of mind to postpone this thing and allow it to be put on in front of fans. Because it just was not the same. This is not my WrestleMania. This is not your WrestleMania. This is just a WrestleMania. How it will be received, how it goes down in history, will it be known as the worst WrestleMania? Probably not. Probably not the worst WrestleMania of all time, but it will definitely be the quietest WrestleMania of all time, the most porn-like WrestleMania of all time, and simultaneously one of the most memorable WrestleManias of all time, just due to all the extenuating circumstances and the fact that one of the biggest pieces of a pay-per-view's puzzle was missing. And that's guys like you, girls like you, and people like me. Thank you guys so much for watching this WrestleMania review and reaction show. There's so much more we could talk about, but why bother? Why bother? We went through the card up and down. I gave you all my opinions, and I don't really want to talk about it much anymore. In fact, I'm looking forward to forgetting as much of this WrestleMania as possible, but I know that I will always remember WrestleMania 36, and it's all thanks to Taker and AJ. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team, Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball. The most important member of the team, as always, is each and every one of you beautiful sledgeheads. And now is the time, if you are not already a sledgehead and you are not part of the newest, fastest rising faction of coolest, most knowledgeable wrestling fans in the YouTube wrestling community, hit that subscribe button right now and become one. And get us over that 2,500 mark and get us closer and closer to 3,000 and beyond as we try to make 2020, as shitty as it's been so far, a big year for us here at Sledgehammer TV. And that all depends on you. You could also help out by sharing this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world, especially if they need to be told why WrestleMania 36 wasn't really as great as they might have thought it was. And then you can smash the like button, because hitting the like button helps this video get out there as well. So if you enjoyed the show today, if it made you laugh, if it made you cry, if it made you understand why WrestleMania 36 had a whole shitload of problems and that night 2 was far inferior to night number 1, smash that like button right now. Don't forget to watch the review of night 1 if you missed it, and the review of both go-home shows to this WrestleMania that ended up being probably as bad as we all expected. That, my friends, is going to do it. We are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show, the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com.